Good evening, this is David Lynn, and welcome to Coffee Talk, number 199. It is Wednesday, April the 24th, 2024, right at 7 p.m. Central Time. And if you would, please leave a like to support the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Please leave a like to support the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for coming. Well, thank you for the first like. I understand. I hope you got to spend a little bit of time with the Black Widow. I still don't know the lady's name. Ah. Uncle Al, Die Bullfrog. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Like number 3. I'm showing 2, but that's great. Keep them coming. I'm taking over the counter the green pills. This is the one supposed to take at night. The orange pills you take during the day. This is a anti, cold, stopped up nose, runny, sore throat, cold symptoms. Hopefully, it will get me through. The green pill, hopefully, will help me to sleep. I really don't have problems sleeping, but I do wake up 2 or 3 times during the night to go to the restroom. The kidneys are not what they used to be, or whatever. How are you doing, Black Widow? Thank you for coming. So I did a community post today. I periodically, I look at the news to see what's going on. I look at shorts. I said, I wonder what the national debt is right now. And I looked at the national debt clock, and it was at 34 trillion 580-ish billion, and then something 100 million, down through the row. And I thought, good Lord, Hillbilly Josh, welcome, Hillbilly Josh. And I thought, my God. And then if you look at the headlines today, they passed a $95 billion war aid package that the president heartily supported. And in order for the House to pass it, they need a bunch of Democrats. The majority of the Melinda Elliott, welcome. The majority of the Republicans, a small majority of the Republicans, like 111, voted against the aid package, and about 100 Republicans in the House voted for it. So, wasn't really happy about that. And the speaker had to use Democrats in order to get it passed, which was a big no-no based on the rules. You don't use the minority party to help you get your legislation passed. You should be able to pass it with your own people. So, along with that foreign aid package, there's a provision that the president signed that TikTok has to be sold or it will be banned in the U.S. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, owners of TikTok, have been given a ultimatum that they either have to sell it or it will be banned in the United States. So that was a shot across the bow. The foreign aid goes to the majority of it, like over 60, something like $61 billion goes for Ukraine. Then there's a chunk that goes for Israel, and then another amount goes for, a lesser amount goes for Taiwan. And as long as I'm covering things that I'm interested in, or you should be interested in, because we're inching closer to World War III. Why? Oh man, creative redundancy. Welcome, creative redundancy. Oh man. The stream crashed. Oh. And Little Lone Prepper, welcome. God almighty. Talk about... I'm going about my business and all of a sudden, down I went. The stream crashed. So I had to reload and it resumed it, thank the Lord. Hopefully y'all are getting me right now. And I could type it up here. Apologies. The stream crashed. Well, that's a good one. That is a good one. So as I was saying, and mind you, I had made a determination that I was going to start doing little news clips. You know, I was going to call it Coffee Talk News. So let me just give you a few of the little things I thought I'd like to talk about tonight. The Congress, the House, and the Senate, with the approval of the President, passed the $95 billion aid package. And the aid package is going to go, the majority of it, $61 billion is going to go for Ukraine. They previously had wanted like a $60 billion package for Ukraine. And it got delayed. The Republicans delayed it for a period of time. But it got passed with the help of the Democrats in the House. The Speaker put the bill forward, and 111 Republicans voted against it. 100 Republicans voted for it. And the rest of the votes they needed to get the majority were the Democrats. So basically the Speaker had got backup from the Democrats to pass this unpopular, at least with conservatives, the money. And $61 billion of it will go to Ukraine. And of the remaining, it's going to go to Israel and to Taiwan. Israel will get more than Taiwan, and Taiwan will get the lesser amount, but that's the way that works. The majority of it goes to Ukraine. And there was even something in there about 30 million. Was it 30 million or 300 million goes to Ukrainian border security. Now, is that a kick in the butt? Ukrainian border security. Did everybody abandon me? I've got 2 right now. Good Lord. I'm showing 2 in the house. Well, for the benefit of anybody who's out there, that is something to be concerned about. Something else to be concerned about, or maybe not, maybe it's a good thing. Part of that, they put in that bill that TikTok has to be sold by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, has to sell TikTok, or it will be banned in the U.S. Either sell it or it will be banned in the U.S. Hey, Melinda, thank you for being here. Yep. My understanding, Glau, is that Ukraine will get something like 61 billion out of the 95 billion package. Ukraine will get 61 billion of it. Yeah. It's just showing that I got 3 people, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm not happy about that. The amount of money that we're throwing away. I did a community wall post today. I looked up the debt clock, the U.S. debt clock. 34 and over a half trillion. 34 trillion 500 billion or 580 billion, and it's climbing. And I don't think it counts the 91. They're just adding on to that. So yeah, we're always last, you know. It's for a long time that you got people who are taking money from foreigners, and then they're buying basically bad decisions. They're buying really bad decisions. I'm going to take 2 of these green pills. These are nighttime cold medication, corticetant. golly geez, they're like horse pills. I'm taking 2 of these cold and flu nighttime pills. Should help me get to sleep after my stream is over. So I'm very unhappy about that money situation. I'm sure a lot of people are. And then something else that the president did through, I guess, one of his executive orders is he's restricting 41 million acres. 41 million acres in Alaska. He's restricting where you cannot do anything to harvest minerals, drilling, or anything. He's putting another 41 million acres in reserve that you can't do anything with it. And then he's saying, well, the Native Americans, the Eskimos or the Native Americans or whatever, asked for it, and they're not the ones that asked for it. This is the tree huggers that requested this. And we were energy independent 3 years ago when he took office. We were energy independent in January of 2021. And now we're having to import lesser quality and more expensive, and the price is going way up on fuel, crude oil, and we're having to import now, and we're no longer energy independent thanks to the current administration. BlackRock and Vanguard are interested in buying TikTok. Tea left over from my supper. I stopped and I had a burger and fries and a tea. And I did take a picture of it, which I may post on my community wall. I take lots of pictures of food, Food's very important to me. And, but no, I wanted to mention that. I want to talk about it. Looking at a $95 billion aid package, another aid package, we're just going further and further in debt. It's not going for the United States. And the border's wide open. And they're spending God knows how much money, and everybody's going in debt like you would not believe for all of the illegals that are coming in to support them. And our own homeless. And I read somewhere that there may be in the neighborhood of 650,000 homeless people in the United States that are citizens from here. We're not supporting them. We're not supporting the veterans. We're transferring money that we would use to support our own homeless or our own veterans to support the illegals. And then we're going, in these blue cities are going in debt. The states are going in debt. And then when they go under, they'll cry to the federal government, which means everybody has to pay to bail them out. Plus, the federal government will bail them out. It's a sad thing. It really is a sad thing. Yeah. And whenever somebody becomes a threat to them, you see what's happening to the former president right now, what all they've done to him and what they're trying to do to him. Now they want to remove his Secret Service protection so it'd be easier to kill him. But these are evil people, and these are stupid people, and they don't read their scriptures. And everybody, one day everybody's going to go before the Lord, and they're going to have to answer. And to show up and say, "Well, I didn't know," is it a sin to be stupid? It's a sin to be evil. And oftentimes, evil and stupid run together. Yep. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, yeah, communist takeover. They're trying. They're successful in the big blue cities, and there are some states that they're successful, and then the smart people are trying to leave, and they're losing a lot of their tax base. A lot of the wealth is leaving. you know. Something like over 1 million people have moved out of New York, the state. And these are people who have the ability to move, and then they take what they have with them, you know. So that's how that works. That's how that works. Yesterday, my live stream didn't have that many people in my live stream yesterday. 40-ish. In Spanish, they'd say la 40. 40. I did some community wall posts. Shout out a bunch of good channels. And I did a community wall post today. Shout out a bunch of channels that were on my stream last night. Excuse me a second. I gotta blow my nose. I'm about to. Wow. On radio in the ear, they have like a cough button where you can silence it, and it'll. That way, if you cough or you make a noise you don't want to make, it silences it. I'm sorry, I'm low tech. I don't have that. But I blew my nose. I still got a lot of congestion and such. Well, thank you, Creative Redundancy. Hey, you do what you want to do. You want to be on mine, that's fine. You want to be someplace else, that's fine. You want to come back when you got time and view part of it, the following day or later on, that's fine. This is just basically a bull session. I talk and people have a chance to come on and share with each other. My serious stuff usually, gets placed on a community wall. Like, I really felt it's significant that I did that post today about the national debt. You don't have to say a lot. I put what the debt was, and that's $102,000+ for every man, woman, and child, baby, every citizen of the United States. If they wanted to pay off the debt right now, everybody'd have to come up with, every individual person in the United States would have to come up with $102,000 and some odd dollars. That's how big the debt is per person. And somebody said, I don't even make that in a year. Well, what if you do? Do you want to turn that over to the government? And then they just keep spending, so it just keeps going up? A lot of people have good jobs, and they didn't go to college. Or they went to college and they got an associate's degree, but they didn't get a bachelor's degree. Because community college is not that expensive. You can get an education through community college and not really go into debt. The classes are not that expensive. You're not going to rack up a big debt, with community college. But you go to these big universities and you go through graduate programs and such, and you can rack up a huge debt. And now the administration is trying to waive a lot of those debts. They're trying to government will pick up the tab. Well, what does that mean? The taxpayers. So people who chose not to go to college because they didn't want to get in debt are now being told that their taxes and the money that their hard-earned money that they work, they're having to pay their money to pay for people who did go to the university. And now they're getting their debt relief by the government in order to acquire votes. One of the things they're trying to do is they're doing a lot of different things to try to get votes. One of the reasons they're bringing in all of the immigrants is that they want them to become citizens, and they want them to like, what the Democrats do for them, and then they'll vote Democrat. So they want to create, so that they can basically take over, and you'd never be able to get a Republican elected again, or an independent, or anybody else. It'll be a one-party system. That's what they want. They want complete control. As they move further and further into socialism towards communism. Yes, I come on at 7 p.m. Central Time. Yep, I understand. Lots of live streams. This is a popular time, you know, becoming more popular. So, um, and you know, there are people who come in and they pop in to say hello and then they pop out. You know, fine, no problem. I do that a lot of times when I'm cruising. I'll go in and I'll say over with support and like number such and such and such. Have a blessed day, and depending, I'll pop out. You know, depending on whose live stream is, depending on what's being said. Um, you get a lot of these streams where all they are is greeting each other. They're just like growth. All they want to do is grow. Hello, hello. Share, like, subscribe, um, repost, whatever, you know. And they really don't talk about anything. You know, they don't talk about anything. Whereas my channel, I like to talk about current events, which sort of segue into being prepared, prepping. Um, and knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. History, knowing your history is power. So many people don't know their history. They don't know anything about history. You've got people with degrees. You've got people with graduate degrees that don't know anything about history. Where'd we come from? What sort of milestones did we meet? You talk about the Monroe Doctrine. You ever heard of Monroe? The Monroe Doctrine? Okay. 1819. 1819. We fought our last war with the mother country, Great Britain, the War of 1812. And we took a beating. They burned Washington, D.C., the capital. Originally, the capital was in Philadelphia. And then they decided they were going to have a capital and they were going to call it Washington District of Columbia. The District of Columbia, Washington. And they were in the process of building a capital, building, you know, the president's manor. And the British invaded and they burned. They burned a lot of it. And they fought them down in New Orleans, Andrew Jackson. You know, they put up a fight and killed a bunch of them. And they made peace. So when they did that, they started shoring up the borders. They made an agreement with Spain for Florida, the Florida Panhandle, and they agreed to Spain's territory, Texas, Tejas. They agreed to allow them, you know, Tejas, which was before Texas independence, the revolution, and all that. That came about in 1836. So 15, 16 years before that, they made an agreement with Spain. Spain was having a hard time holding their property. And they made an agreement with Britain, you know, about the northern border, and with Russia, because Russia had Canada, I mean, had Alaska at the time, and they agreed where the parallels were, California for Mexico and all that, you know, Spain. So they were doing that. The Bud Files, welcome to Bud Files. But the Monroe Doctrine basically said, you know, in so many words, that the United States was supreme on our continent, and that this was our sphere of influence, and that European powers, colonizers, you call them European powers, could not come in and muck around in our backyard. That's the Monroe Doctrine. And we're not really enforcing the Monroe Doctrine today because China is 200 miles off of our coast, big time into a small little colony, island, setting up a port area, air strip. They're making it a, I guess you'd say a commerce zone. And you're being welcomed with open arms. And, right off our back door. And they're concerned that, will they use it for military purposes? You think? I mean, good Lord. That's the type of crap that's going on. 10 in the house. I have 10 likes. Please leave a like to support the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. So, most college education is a political indoctrination. Well, that is true. And I will tell you, when I was at university back in the 80s, you knew who the professors were, that you had to keep your mouth shut, or you had to espouse their liberal philosophy. And if you didn't, your grade was going to suffer. Your grade was really going to suffer if you weren't liberal. So you had to pretend to be liberal. And there weren't that many of them. There were still conservatives around, but the thing is, depending on what your degree and your course requirements are, you were going to be required to take some of these liberal professors. You'd look at what you're going to take and putting all that stuff together. Funny thing, when I have 2 graduate degrees, and both times for my graduate degrees, I did my degree plan the semester I graduated. I already had what I was required to take. I knew what I had to take. And I'd go and I'd schedule my classes, and I'd go and I took my classes. So when I was applying for graduation, they had to put my degree plan together, and I had to sit down with them and sign my degree plan. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, I graduated. Two master's degrees. And, same guy did it both times, laughing about it. When am I graduating? You want to pass these classes? Yeah, I'll pass these classes. The first graduate degree, I had a 3.88 GPA. I had all A's. I made the mistake. I took an elective class in what was called Gifted and Talented, because my first master's degree was in occupational training and development. And I made 1B, knocked me down from a 4.0 to a 3.88. And my second graduate degree, which was in management, I made 1B, and then I had one class I got credit for that I didn't actually get a grade for. It was a credit class. So that GPA was like 3.70 something, But it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not a genius, and even if I was a genius, that first degree of mine, and I did file a grievance over it, 22 people in the class, 19 A's and 3 B's. And it just so happens that the 3 male students in the class were the 3 B's. So feminism was alive at that time, And I did file a grievance over it. And I got the lady in a little bit of hot water. And she wasn't really qualified to teach a graduate level class, but it was a summer class, and I needed one more class, and I decided to take it because it was in gifted and talented, which is a area of certification you can get. Teaching gifted and talented students. Techniques for stuff like that. Anyway, SD Mountain Man, my friend. How are you doing, Scott? I will tell you. Where is it? Where is it? Your box, Scott. Your box. Got the box. I just got to put the stuff in it. I will do it. And hopefully I'll get it out to you. Hopefully I'll get it out to you by this weekend. Anyway, and I'm glad to hear you're working. I'm glad to hear you're working. So, I'm still sick, and I'm still taking medication. I took some chloracetine. This is the high blood pressure stuff for cold flu. I took a supply of Tamiflu. Doctor prescribed Tamiflu for me, and I'm still still not quite where I need to be. So, but it is what it is. Well, yes, one of the things about people who are highly intelligent, more so than I am, they have a higher propensity to be mentally unstable. I have a degree in certifications in special education, undergraduate, and I studied all about education, special education, all that, and certified. And I've taught emotionally disturbed students, students who are attention deficit hyperactivity, students on the spectrum, Asperger's, what they call the highly intelligent ones, that the ones that are very high IQ, they call it Asperger's. They're autistic, and you've got all sorts and extensions of problems. People who are bipolar, what they call manic depressive, they're on medications like lithium and such. And then you got the ones that are really out there, and they give them what's called booty juice, basically to knock them out, really knock them down. And they slang terms booty juice. Yeah, I can talk to you a lot about that kind of stuff. Yeah, I take 6 medications. I take 2 blood pressure medications. I take a water pill. I take a cholesterol pill. I take a pill for my anti-inflammatory meloxicam. It's for my arthritis. And now I take a sugar pill, one for being, I guess what you call pre-diabetic or whatever. I take a big horse pill. It looks like an oversized aspirin for that. And so I take 6 every morning. And people say, "Oh, I take about 15." I take this, that, that, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, they take a lot more than I do. So I don't feel that bad because I've been taking pretty much the same stuff for years and years and years and years and years. And it controls my blood pressure. And they don't shoot me when they go do my blood work. They don't pronounce me DOA or whatever. Just it is what it is. But medications extend our lives. Before we had that, I started taking blood pressure medication when I was about 50. And I've been once they got me regulated, I've been taking pretty much the same thing forever, for the last 11, 12 years. My father's father, and they did not have blood pressure medication at that time, had a heart attack. He died of what's called Bright's disease, which was high blood pressure. They couldn't treat it back then. Died in 1932, 49 years of age. 49 years of age. And that was a good life back then. Average life expectancy was a lot less than it is today. Thyroid, okay. Autism, okay. Yeah, yeah. You know, every day, I say this all the time. Every day when I wake up, I thank the Lord for the day. Because when I want to go on my sleep. You fall asleep, and the next thing you know, it's Judgment Day and you're before the Lord. And a minute might have passed, or 1,000 years might have passed, and you'll have no concept of it. Next thing you know, you're before the Lord in Judgment Day. That's what death is. Death is a sleep. It's in the scriptures. The Lord said the dead sleep. They're not up there on a cloud floating around watching you. So you need to look to your health. That's what the wellness checkup is for. Every year you go have a wellness checkup. Usually insurance will cover it. And at some point in time, depending on your age, depending on your weight, what you eat, what sort of shape you're in, at some point you're going to have to start taking some medications. You want to keep going. And they'll get you regulated on something. And it will be, it'll be some changes. It'll be some changes. And you'll get used to it. And then you just go about your business. And like the idea of like me taking metformin. I had to take metformin. And then they took me off of it. Well, your blood sugar's okay. So for several years, I hadn't taken metformin. Now, I'm a lot more sedentary. I'm not doing physical what I used to do. I've picked up some more weight. I'm up to about 250 now. And now my blood sugar is a little bit high, so I have to take metformin again. If I lose weight, get in better shape, drop those pounds, I probably won't have to continue taking the metformin. But there are some positive side effects to the metformin. It cuts your appetite, and it has some stuff that seems to be life extending. For so many things, it's supposed to be very helpful. 12 likes. But, back to talking about, being prepared. Something happens, and you have what you have. Will what you have get you by? The water turns off. How much water do you have? How are you going to get your water? You going to get clean water? Well, I'll go in here. How did he die? Well, he drank some contaminated water. Killed him. One of the reasons why, like the Romans, the Italians, or the Greeks, why were they so big into wine? The water wasn't clean. They couldn't trust the water. Or olive oil. They would grapes, juice. They could not trust the water supply. What they would eat. They didn't have the best hygiene in the world. Now, the water turns off. What's your hygiene going to be like? You're going to have a water supply of clean water that you can continue bathing the way you do now, taking your showers. Got to look at that. Everybody really needs a good water well with a pump. Clean water with a pump. And I'd still want to do some filtration for whatever I drank. You know. Think about it. Then start thinking about your food supply. What sort of food supply do you have? How long will that last? What happens when it starts going bad? You ever think about that? Have you thought about that? Stuff expires. Milk expires pretty quick. Bread gets stale. You know, it's got a shelf life. You think about that. What are you going to do? What are you prepared for? I was talking to a young lady who's live streaming, and her channel's not a preparedness channel, you know, prepper channel. I asked her, so what will you do in an emergency? Well, I'll go to the hospital. Okay. So the hospital, in an emergency, they're going to be looking to treat people who are injured, people who are sick, who have a health problem. They're not going to be there for people who, well, I got hungry or I'm thirsty. Well, then I'll go to my parents. Okay. Are your parents prepared? Is your father prepared? Your mother prepared to have you come home and they're going to feed you and they're going to make sure you have what you need to keep going? Are they prepared for that? Are they planning for that? And she just sort of didn't want to change the subject. You know. And I'm not saying this was a stupid person. This is just somebody who doesn't think about that kind of stuff. You know. They figured there'd be somebody that'd take care of them. You think about that. Holly Ivins, how's it going, Holly? You think about that. You know, there are people who are, you can say they're prepper types, and they buy lots of stuff to be prepared. And in a bad situation, they'll have food and water and their medication and such. And they may have some communications and what all. And they may have some self-defense. But how long will they last? And I can include myself in that. And the reason why I include myself in that is I'm a little bit older, and physically I can't do what I used to do. You know. I mean, physically I can't go out and fight a war. I'd be one of the first casualties. You know. Now, logistically, I'm very good with logistics. And I can also talk to you a lot about defense. How to defend yourself and how to set up a defensive perimeter and and how to plan for stuff like that. I'm going to talk to you a lot about that. And I'm very, very good when it comes to organization. So those are my strengths. And I know basic, medical training. So those are some of the things that I bring to a table. More of the intellectual planning, keeping your head, knowing what to do, knowing how to, conserve your resources, and then acquiring things that you need. you know. But when it comes to going out and fighting the war, no, I can't go out and fight the war. And as I get older, I'll be able to do less and less of that. So yes, if somebody's trying to break in my house, I can go and meet them with a shotgun or with a pistol, and I can deal with them. But can I go out actively down the street hunting people or trying to clear an area? No, that'd be a very sad thing to see me try to do. You know. So when it comes to preparedness, you have to make a decision of, you know, what's your scenario. Devil Dog Prepper and Mr. Whistle, welcome Mr. Whistle, and welcome Devil Dog Prepper. You have to be open, and you have to be realistic, and then you have to basically just work at it. It's like, you know, you're trying to build something. You're not going to build it immediately. Prepping is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not going to be prepped overnight. But there are things that you can do to get a good start going. You know. And you know, the idea, to me, the idea is to survive. Something happens, to survive intact the first few months, which is when most of the bad stuff is going to happen. You know, most of your, what they call the die off, when the population drops, all of the people who require medical maintenance, you know, that have got some serious issues, medical issues, the ones that can't take care of themselves, the ones that are absolutely unprepared, they're all going to, you know, run out of medication, run out of treatments, or they're going to run out of food and water, and they're going to die, perish. And you want to live through that. And you're going to be in a situation then where, and you know, and you'll be going through that situation, it'll be an ongoing thing, where you've got roaming people that are looking to acquire what they need to get by any means necessary. They're willing to go in and scavenge and loot and most likely kill somebody to get what they have, if it keeps them alive or if it keeps their family alive. You got to be prepared for that, and you got to get through it. And no, it's not nice to talk about, but what do you think happens if the grid falls, and you know, and power falls, and there's no running water, and there's no electricity, and nobody's delivering food to the stores, and you don't have any, you know, functional money? What do you think's going to happen? You have to think about that. And that's part of being prepared. And do you have weapons to defend yourself? Do you know how to use weapons to defend yourself? Do you know how to clean a weapon? You know, do you practice with the weapon? You need to. You know, if you were just to go out and buy a 38 special snub nose and a box of bullets, you know, and you got a 6-shooter, and you keep it loaded. I mean, I guess in an emergency situation, having never shot it, that you can know how to point it and pull the trigger. You know, and close range. It's a lot better than nothing. But it's like, you have to practice with it. You know. And then I wouldn't tell somebody to get a snub nose. I'd tell somebody to get a 4-inch, or at least a 3-inch barrel. You want to be able to hit something a little bit further off. You know. in a revolver. And if you get a semi-automatic, I'd say get a 9mm, you know. But and have a couple of spare clips for it, and you got to practice, and you got to learn how to clean it, and you got to be functional with it, you know. Then have a supply of ammunition. You know, you want several hundred rounds of ammunition, and it won't break the bank. It won't break the bank. You've got to think about those things. You've got to think about those things. Well, that's good. I enjoy walking. Don't do it near enough. You got to think about those kind of things. You really do. So, excuse me, I'm gonna blow my nose again. Yeah. If I leave this stuff in my nose, it makes me want to gag. And I don't want to be in a situation where I gag. So I apologize about the nasties. But again, what I wanted to say today, you know, looking at the news, and I wrote some little notes. They passed a $95 billion package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. 61 billion of it would go to Ukraine. I posted on my community wall. If you look on my community wall, leave a comment if you'd like. Looked at the national debt clock. 34 trillion 580 billion down the road dollars. Moving on to $35 trillion, closing in on it. And if we were going to pay that, every man, woman, and child, every citizen in the United States, all 350 million of us, would owe $102,000. A little over $102,000 to pay off the national debt. And it keeps growing and they keep spending. That really bothered me. Biden, in that they put that the CCP has to sell TikTok or it will be banned in the United States. And I know that will freak out a lot of people that like TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but there are a lot of people. YouTube will probably be happy because TikTok is the competitor to YouTube. You know. How long has YouTube been around? YouTube started in 2005. Like 19 years. You know, that's how long YouTube's been around. Now these YouTube shorts that we're so happy with, they got that from trying to compete with TikTok. The shorts. That's been around for a few years now. So, the other thing was, I read the administration, with an executive order, said 41 million acres in Alaska are now off limits or in reserve, that you can't do any drilling or prospecting or any mineral recovery or anything, oil, gas, anything. 41 million extra acres. And they said it was for the Native Americans. Well, they weren't the ones that requested it, the tree huggers. You know. So that's my take on the news today. And I could talk about other stuff, you know, but that's the stuff that really should be important to you. You know. And so as a scout, the motto is be prepared. And I was a scout. Be prepared, preparedness, prepping. It is what it is. You know, it's good. Life is good, but it is what it is. Everybody have a blessed day. And I'll try to be back tomorrow for another edition of Coffee Talk. Bye.